Well, Merry Christmas Eve. Although this video won't come out obviously before Christmas, today is the day before Christmas. It is currently 19 degrees. Really glad to be outside. We've been stuck inside for 5 days. The temperature yesterday, I think it got up to 3. The day before it didn't get above 0. This was Fahrenheit. Our lowest low was negative 8.8, and for 5 days we've been stuck inside. Again, it's one of the reasons I want to build that and have it underground, so that area, at least if it's 40 degrees, you can work. But when it is below 0, it is just biting cold. I acclimate to heat much better than cold, but today it's warmed up. Tomorrow's Christmas. We got some family that are going to be coming up. I snowblowed probably 6 or 7 days ago, only the second or third time of the year. But we got about 3 inches, and it's supposed to snow some more, so I'm going to go ahead and do a quick snow blow just to get this cleaned off. So that's the plan for the day. Then I'm going to fill that wood bin back up. We've been through quite a bit of wood. As you can see here, it's not too deep, but I do have the skids lowered all the way down because our road's not finished. I don't want to be picking up rocks. But also, as I mentioned, it's 19 degrees. It's currently below freezing, and I've discovered it's a lot easier to snow blow when it's below freezing because it's a lot less wet, less likely to plug the chute. And I still don't really believe it, but within 3 days, we're supposed to be hitting high at 50 degrees. Well, downtown. So we'll probably be 45, and so this is just going to turn into a soupy mess. They're talking about rain, so I just figured I'd get as much off of it as I can for now. There we go, a couple hours, the driveway is done. Put the forks on the skid steer, went over and got a bunch more wood. Been thinking about that, and I think I'm going to change my mind. I actually think I'm going to make it smaller, because I think I'm going to make the wood even longer, because even at 24 inches, I still have plenty of room inside that boiler, and I think I'll make it so it just does 2. For a couple of reasons. One, I've noticed that it's kind of a pain to get to that third row that's on the inside, bending over in there. Won't always be a spring chicken, so I got to think of the future. And also, when this is done, when we get done, this boiler is going to be on a concrete pad. And I think I'm going to make a pallet, a bottom to those, that I can set the pallets on that has casters on it. That way I can roll them around. I could roll it up to the boiler, then use half of it, spin it around, use the other half, and that way it'll just make it that much easier. So I think the subsequent ones I'll actually either make the same size or make them a little bit smaller, depending upon, I'm still experimenting with the size of the wood. But I do think we could go with a little bit bigger wood than 24 inches also. But we got this all cleaned up. Now the kids can get in here. Well, they might not, because I don't think they have chains. We chain up to get in and out of here. So I'll probably meet them at the head, pick them up in the four-wheeler, them and the grandkids, and then bring them in. But that way it stays a little bit clearer here. We're getting quite a pile of snow down there. In the downtime of winter, I've decided to do something about this. This was our wood pile. I pulled all of the wood that was on it off of there. It took about an hour and a half this morning to get the tarp off, because once again it snowed. Every time we go to use that, it's got snow on it. And so it ends up being about an hour and a half to get usually wet, heavy snow off of it. So I need a solution that doesn't work. As I've stated numerous times, I'd hoped this winter to be pulling the dirt out of that, and then we could move this whole operation up underneath that. But that's not going to happen, obviously, this winter. And as soon as spring and summer hit, we're going to be back on trying to build that, which means we've got at least one more winter before I'm even working on pulling dirt, or until next winter before I'm even working on pulling dirt out of there. Obviously, I'm not going to get the dirt pulled out and get all of this set up within the winter, and I need access to this for a couple of reasons. One, all of the wood gets wet and frozen, virtually unusable. But two, every time I say I want to come out here and do any sawing, because I have to remove the snow off of the wood pile, it's just this daunting task of an hour and a half before you can even consider cutting more wood, which is what I could be doing in the winter. So I'm hoping if I make some sort of covered structure here, I will have this wood so that it's out of the weather and available for use, but also so that I can continue to cut wood in the winter and stack it in this structure. My thought here is something that runs this way, accessible from both sides in the middle, so that we can put different cuts and size wood in it. Got a basic idea, but I need to start with getting this cleared out and ready. Not sure I'm even going to be able to do this in the winter. Depends on what the ground's like. There is the start. I've cleared that, just took out some of the smaller trees. Don't want to take any of the bigger ones. And then leveled it somewhat. It's about 2 inches lower on the back corner than the front, which is good because that'll help with any drainage. And I need to go in and do some math, work on a little bit of design. I got an idea in my head, but I also want to make sure. I might call down and see, because if it's over 200 square feet, you have to get permits. I don't know about something that's just a cover for wood, so maybe I'll call them. And it isn't necessarily the taxes, it's the permit. It's hundreds of dollars for a permit that is a very simple structure that, you know, is not a domicile someone lives in, and then you got to go through the whole approval process, and it's just a huge pain. In addition to the funding that it costs, it'll cost me more for the permits than it does to put the whole building up. So let me go in and do some math. Spent a little bit of time on the saw, and then got that going to char the ends of those. We'll see how well that works out. I've seen people do it in videos, and apparently it helps prevent not only rot but insect infestation. And this is, again, temporary. Once I get that up there done, I'll probably just cut the bottoms off and then move the whole structure up there. But I still need 6 more, but that's a start. It'll get us going. There is the first 4 vertical uprights. You can ignore all the scab pieces and cross bracing. That's just to keep everything square. I'll move on to the next 4. There you can see I've got the cross braces on the first section, and I replaced those scabbed in pieces. Those 2 are also temporary, but they span all the way across it, and then they give me more room to work on it. I don't know if you can see the string here also. I set up the string, ended up tying it out here to a piece of wood that's connected to the saw. I got 1 stake pounded in the ground, but the ground is frozen. So then I did the 3, 4, 5 triangle off of that corner, and then out the string, or Pythagorean theorem, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that this string right here, right along here, is perpendicular to that back row. So now I can start doing the pieces coming out this way. Put the next post in, and I'm working on the 3rd one out. And I should probably point out or add, when I'm digging this, I find lots of nice big flat rocks. So underneath the post, I'm putting one of those, because when this is done, and if it ever gets fully loaded, it will be many tons of weight on this. So that'll help distribute some of that weight down onto those rocks, hopefully instead of sinking these posts further into the ground. There is the first 9 of 20 vertical posts. Got to get back on the sawmill. Those 2 are pretty cool. That one right there and there. Those are 2 4 by a little over a 10. Probably should have got a shot of it when it was together. It was a 10 by 8. It's pretty impressive. Now I'll cut them down into 4 by 4s. Kind of a shame. That's interesting. That's a first. I just cut a 1 by off of this. I'm pretty sure that's an arrow. It cut pretty easily, so I'm guessing it was aluminum. That's the first time I've cut something in a tree. There is about a day and a half on the sawmill. Actually, that's not true. That's probably about 8 hours total. Try to remind myself that I'm retired. This is supposed to be fun, so I don't set long hours. Also, I don't work to maximum efficiency. Like when you're cutting off both edges, you can cut off the edges of one side on all of them, then stack them all together, rather than having to raise and lower the metal pieces on the back. So it's just a leisurely, just for fun. But I've got 14 4x4s, 6 of them are 12 feet. The rest are over 16 feet, probably 5 or 6 really nice 2x6s, same with 2x4s, and then a whole pile of 1x4s. That's another reason it takes me a little bit longer. I try to use as much of the wood as I can, so what a sawmill would waste, more than likely I'm cutting into 1x4s. They're very handy, and it's free wood. But next I'll get the ends of those burnt, and then we'll get back over there start getting them stood up. Finished up on the sawmill yesterday. These are the 11 4x4s that I now need to burn the bottom of. And we got a fire going here. Once we get a good coal bed, we'll start putting those over it and get them burnt. This is the rest of the wood, the 2x4s, 2x6s, and 1x4s. And I got a few extra 4x4s over there. I'll likely end up using them. It rained yesterday, so they have frozen water on them. So I've got the ones on the side to build it up, to get the height over the fire, and also dry those out. And then I just put the top ones across this contraption so that I'm getting the ends of them burnt. There, the 20 vertical uprights are in. That was a lot of work. As you can see, I started putting these on. These are just 2x4. I was originally considering using a 4x4 and cutting into here. Would have been a lot of cutting. And considering these are going to be supported across 5 of these, that's 10 of those 3/8 inch lag bolts. We're tying all those in, but you start to get an idea. I'm going to do that on both sides. I need to get on the sawmill now because I'm out of 2x4s. And I'm going to cut these smaller pieces into 2x4s because, as you can also see, they don't need to be very long. So general idea, I put my spare 4x4s down there, and then we'll have different lengths that go up, and then I'll start with the 2x6s on this side, just keep the heaviest wood on the bottom. And then when I'm done, I'll go over why I did it this way as opposed to, I guess I'd say, a more conventional way. But I'm going to get on the sawmill now. I won't film that. I won't try to convince you that it's exciting to watch. But next I'll be starting with the 2x4s across this side. And as I go further up this, I'm removing more of that bracing. Eventually it will all come out. The other thing, as I do this, we're coming across these rocks. As you saw, I was using some of them underneath the post, but we've got a couple of great big rocks. This one right here, we're pretty excited about. We want a rock up at the front of the driveway that's going to have our house number, property number, whatever you want to call it, on it. That rock right there is a very big rock. It's got that flat side, so a project of the future, obviously sometime in the future, I want to try to engrave our address onto that rock and then probably fill in the engraving, and then we'll move it out to the front of the property. But that's probably quite a while in the future. There, the other side is done. You can kind of get the idea. Stack some of the wood I cut up yesterday on there temporarily, and then we'll go through and get it organized. I'll start figuring out what I'm going to do for a roof on this thing next. I cut these top pieces right here to 12 feet. I don't know if you'll be able to see, I did the front one and the back one, and then put a string on it. And that way they're all centered. And then I bolted those on, and I pulled all of that scab cross bracing in that was going lateral. Next I'll put some bracing longitudinal so that I can take these pieces that are going this way off. Haven't really figured out what I'm going to do with the roof yet. I'm kind of making it up as I go. Got a general idea, but we'll see. I think yesterday I showed I got these cross pieces here. I just put these longitudinal pieces here on both sides. On the front it's going to hang over 3 feet, and on the back, when I say hang over, I mean this direction. On the back, going that direction, it's going to hang over about 2 feet. I'll probably have to put some bracing in, and then you can see where I'm starting to mock up for the roof pitch, just to get a pitch that I like. And now that I've got these side pieces on here, I've removed the scabs that I had in, tying those together longitudinally on the two outside, up here and here. You can see I've still got those because I don't have anything tying those together running longitudinal. Once I get something there, that'll be the last piece of scabbing that I have to pull out. If you're going to build something structural, I would not use these. These are just deck screws. You can get them by the box. I don't use them. This is the fourth one that I pulled out when I had stuff scabbed in. They have a tendency to break. They are not a structural screw. I use these. I buy these online. I get them in bulk. They're a great screw. They've got a hex head. They are a structural screw. I have not broken one yet. I couldn't imagine what it'd take to break one of these. These, you know, you can use for horizontal, for decking or something. I would never use those for something that's structural tying. For example, I use those structural screws instead of deck screws. I'll also mention I buy lag screws in bulk also. I get about 300 at a time. They come in a great big box. They are considerably cheaper. I still haven't figured out what I want to do for the roof on this. It doesn't necessarily have to be waterproof, just something to hold the snow and shed most of the water. I could do like I did on, I don't know if you'll be able to see it over there on that side piece, if you remember, over here. Or I could just use basically boards like that, only put them longitudinally across it. It'd be a bit more weight. I don't think that's a problem. I may end up getting some tin roofing. You know, it'd be a few $100s, but it's something, because when I get done with this, when we get into the shop area, I'll probably take this, tear it apart, just unscrew it, take it up there, cut the bottom off of it, and then I'll use it for wood storage up in there, and then I won't need a roof. But I'd be able to reuse that tin probably for, who knows, chicken coop, garden planter beds, who knows. So I may end up going with a tin roof on it. It'd be quicker and easier, but a little bit more costly. There you can see I've got all the rafters in for both sides all the way back. Now I just put the stringers in the top of it, and then I'm ready to, well, I got to cut those 4x4s off. I'll get up there with a chainsaw and cut those off. Probably tomorrow morning. It's starting to get dark, so I need to get stuff wrapped up and put away. It is ready for roofing. I got these, I forget what they're called, purlins, I forget. The longitudinal pieces up on the top that are going to hold the roofing. And then I also put these two braces on the front right here, coming out diagonal, because although that other building sheds all the snow, it's heated. This will not be heated. So I want to make sure that it can handle the snow load. And I've decided to go with metal roofing. I called. It's going to be, they're 8-foot pieces. Well, hopefully 8 feet doesn't hang out too much. But the nice thing about if I can use 8-footers is I can repurpose them at 8 feet for something else. And they're not too expensive. The roofing is probably going to be about $350, and then of course you've got your trim cap up on the top. So we'll probably be about $400 for roofing, but I'll be able to reuse that. And that way I know that it'll more easily shed the snow, and it will definitely shed the rain. Now we're up on top looking at the back, and you can see I left them long. Those 2x4s, well, I'll pan up there, that center 2x4 sticks out 2 feet, making the entire building, the roof of the building, 21 feet. Roofing comes in 3-foot pieces, so I want to leave this to where I can make it probably just a little bit shorter by an inch or two, and that way I'll be using all full pieces of metal. And so I've left those long so I can do the back when I get there. Ideally I would roof from the back to the front because it would be easier to get the pieces up, but in doing this I'll be able to make sure that I use all full pieces. And the reason the back only hangs over 2 feet, or maybe even a little less than the front is 3 feet, is with this being in the trees, all of the rain here is going to be vertical, the rain and the snow. You're not going to get wind-driven rain coming in on this, so that I'm not worried about it getting the ends of the wood. They'll be underneath the cover. There's the first side of the roofing done. You may notice, if you look closely, that you can see the seams because they're overlapped with the piece behind over the top of the piece in front. I would normally have done them the other way, but when I bought this, the edges here have a little bit of damage. I'm bending these back out. This one I bent back out, but you can still see it. So I positioned them so that this is overlapped, which means that on this side, on the right side, the seam is going to be going this way, and on the left side it'll be the other way so that you won't see it, because you'd never get back behind there to see that seam. It's not a big deal, just something I would have done if I would have been able to. Now I'll get up there and get that other side done. And also, when I bought these, I had to buy, it was a package, so I only needed 14 pieces, but there was 20 pieces in it, so I'm gonna have 6 pieces left over. So it came out to be, it was more expensive than I had planned, but with these 6 pieces, might be able to do something with at least the head of that. I'd like to cover the whole thing, but I really like loading it with the excavator. It's much easier. I mean, you just set it right on there, just gentle as can be. And with the excavator, because the boom comes over the top, I wouldn't be able to do that if I had the entire thing covered. So I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do there. I may go ahead and make a cover for the whole thing, because it'd be really nice to have this not in the snow. And then just put a piece right here so that I can put the logs onto there, and then you just roll them on. Also, I don't really care for how far that hangs over. So I'm going to keep an eye on it, but I've got a plan so I can extend that just enough to support that edge hanging off if we get too much snow. I forgot to show you a trick I picked up years ago. A lot of people probably know this, but that roofing came banded onto these boards. If you don't have a pair of dikes big enough to cut that, you have 2 crescent wrenches. You just crank them down, slide one like that, the other one like that. Shears them. I got that end cleaned up this morning. Remember, those pieces were hanging over, so I tied all that in. And what I was going for, as you can see there, that way those are full 3-foot pieces. So I just made the length on the back so that it came out right. There it is, complete. From side to side, it is very stable, because every one of those lag screws, there's I think I counted 100 lag screws, so they're all acting as friction points to keep it from wanting to rack that way. You might notice on both sides I also put these braces longitudinal, and that stiffened it up considerably in that direction also. And then I got the wood loaded. We used quite a bit of wood to build it, and it took does a great job of making it look like I don't have hardly any wood cut now, because it's not all in one pile. Earlier I said I was going to explain why I made it this way. If you go into a big box store, normally you pull the lumber off all in one piece coming out the side. There's a couple of reasons I did it this way. First, those are made out of metal. Metal is quite a bit stronger. This, if you were to have a post come up, you'd have to make sure you loaded both sides the same, or it'd lean to one side more than the other, plus it's wood. And not only is it wood, this is very heavy wood. I would bet one of those 4x4s weighs nearly 3 times as much as one that you get out of the store, because they're wet. They haven't dried out. So this is going to be a wood storage and wood drying and storage rack. That's, you can notice in some of these we've got stringers between them so that it allows the air in between so that they'll dry. I'll kind of go over that now. And here you'll notice the stringer comes over to the 4x4 on both sides, everywhere we put one of those, so that when we go to pull wood out, we can pull it out from the end and it won't pull the stringers with it. They're all captured by those 4x4s. And that will allow us to store longer wood without having to worry about it not being structurally strong enough. I'd hate to have something like that fall over. But if I need to pull a piece out, now it's sized. I've got down on the bottom here 4x4 16s. The next one up is going to be probably 12s and 8s. Then I've got 2x6s, same thing. I'll do 2x4s. And up at the very top, 16-foot 1x4s, 8-foot on the left, and 12-foots on the right. That way, if I need a piece of wood, and I know, and the way I'm doing it, because I don't cut the ends until I use them. So I measure them to make sure if it's in the 12-foot length, for example, there is 12 feet of usable length in it. Or I should say less than 16, but at least 12. There may be 14 feet, there may be 13 feet. And anything that's in the 16-foot pile has 16 feet of usable length. But in this way, I know that it's very strong. I don't have to worry about it falling over. Plus with the snow load, that's just more weight that's going to be on it. And hopefully this will keep our wood out of the weather for use, and also help make it so that when we need a specific piece, we're not digging through a pile trying to get to the size and cut that we need. The other thing I'm hoping this does is I'm hoping it keeps me better organized. I have a tendency, because when you're on the sawmill, you know, you might get 4x4s, 2x6s, 2x4s. You're always going to get some 1x4s out of the outside edges. It really is kind of dependent on what's in the log. And because I want to keep sawing, and you know, if my pile is all in one pile and I got to move this to put the 2x6s underneath it or whatever, in this way hopefully I'll be able to be more organized, because I want to keep sawing when I'm sawing and not end up with a huge pile of wood stacked up that I then have to go through. Or at least if I do have a huge pile of wood stacked up, I have a very easy sorting and storage solution for it.